All right, my in-studio guest today, House District 83, Texas House District 83 Representative Dustin Burrows, my good friend, reached out and said, all of this stuff going on, I want to come on and visit. He's fired up. Last week we got together for a little reception prior to the Christian Values Summit, and he gave one of the greatest speeches I've ever heard him. You don't have the speech with you. Can you recite it?
I do not.
We can't redo that speech. It was great. I stood up. I wanted to cheer for him. He did fantastic. How you doing this morning?
Well, first I've got to clear up, what do I call you? His Majesty, the Cotton King, Chairman Evans, or Steve?
I don't know. There's a lot of people that they'll hear that Cotton King thing and get upset about it. But, I've been in, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the cotton gin business. I have been for many years. I don't even know how many it is now. So,
well, you did a really great job last night organizing the party. I have really a lot of confidence in our local party and its leadership, which you're at the helm, and the people you've put around you, and you did a really good job last night, and want to compliment you on that.
Thank you. And I think we ought to mention Gilbert's Bar and Grill over on Martha Sharp Freeway did an unbelievable job catering the event. We had a mishap, a misunderstanding with the food and the order, and we ran out, and these guys run back to the restaurant, load up some more food, run out of gas on the way back to the venue, grab another car, and they are able to deliver hot food, and we fed everybody. No other caterer would do that, folks. They're fantastic. They're one of our favorite places to eat, and I'm glad they came out.
All right, so convention.
We left a dead space there. You look like you were convention,
No.
Dustin. Let's go to convention.
Well, the very first thing that I noticed was really interesting is a lot of people were sending me pictures of the signs that required all of the delegates in order to get their in order to basically get their delegate passes, they could vote, had to show photo ID.
We're talking about the
Democrat convention. I thought, how ironic is this? Here's the party that is against any form of voter ID, any form of election integrity for the broader voters, the ballot box that we all cast our ballots in, but internally, when it comes to getting your delegate pass at the Democratic National Convention, oh my gosh, all of a sudden they now believe in voter ID. And I thought, that's really funny.
I thought that. Did you see anybody protest that?
No.
Did you see the voter ID protest? The one guy with the sign, I didn't see one, but there's probably that one guy.
Yeah.
Hey, is my library card good enough? No, sir. We're going to need a state-issued driver's license.
Yeah, and then I guess so. Last night I only got to catch Bill Clinton. I guess going to be the first man talking about this really long-winded, painfully interesting. Painful story. I mean, it was an awkward story. He's trying to tell this story of this love relationship with his wife, and I think most of us were sitting there thinking, what is he describing? This is not what we see, and it's very much in the face of what a lot of the perception is this is a marriage that, of mutual ambition, and obviously some things in the 90s that don't quite reconcile with the story he told. And so it was just an odd speech last night for me.
I've got the whole transcript. It's all annotated up. Somebody did it. I printed it out. I thought, there's not a story here. But the one thing he said that was interesting, and I don't remember when it was. I don't remember what station carried it, but there was an interview way back when they were raising money for the Clinton Library. They interviewed Hillary Clinton, and one of the things that she said about her husband, one of the few nice things, because I don't think she likes him either, one of the few things she said about him is he never did or touched anything that he didn't make better. He measured himself by, were there more jobs? Did people have more money in their pocket? Were people in homes? He never touched anything that he didn't make better. And the one line I caught out of Clinton's speech last night was, Hillary never touched anything that she didn't make better. And I've got the transcript. I may dig through it later at the break and see if I can recite it. But so we've got all these speech scandals.
I just kept waiting for him to say, hey, look, I'll bring the saxophone out and play a solo if I can get some votes for her. I mean, it was really amusing to watch, to say the least.
Is it Damien that texted in? More DNC emails released today that discuss a great deal about donors, Democrat donors. who they are asking favors. We don't have those emails yet to talk about them. That we might do that tomorrow. We'll get a better look at them, but more emails are being released.
Oh, they're just going to try to tell everyone, don't pay attention. It's Putin doing this. I mean, that's going to be the line of trying to keep that from coming up.
It's the hackers group, the anonymous group doing it.
But, there was a lot missing. I mean, where's the talk, at the Democrat convention about this national debt that we're in? I mean, there's not even a mention of it. One of the most significant things that our generation's going to face and our children are going to inherit is a debt that nobody's talking about how to pay back. But yet at the same time, the Democrats are just giving out free stuff like it's, not going to cost anybody anything.
When you're giving out large amounts of entitlements, when you're giving out free stuff to people, debt is not something that you want to discuss.
Yeah.
Let's do the we'll hat tip to Congressman Nagelbauer. He had a speech he used to give. He did the chair speech with the three legs. That was the last one he did. And it was a pretty good speech. Mm-hmm. But he used to do one, and he highlighted it the other day at a luncheon when he came in and kind of gave a farewell luncheon to the Lubbock Republican women. His speech was, and I can't recite it word for word, but it was he used a wagon to demonstrate what's happening. And in the start, when you have a true capitalist government, people are working, you embrace the free market, there's money flowing, you've got a whole bunch of people at the handle of the wagon and a couple people in the wagon that simply cannot do for themselves. We do have those people that we need to take care of. We've got the people that aren't able to work. We have the disabled people. We have people that we need to take care of. And as time goes on, you start to shift more people from the handle of the wagon into the wagon, so less and less people are pulling the wagon. And the moral is we're at that tipping point right now where we have just almost more people riding in the wagon than we have pulling it. But nowhere in these conversations, when we look at that from the Democrat side, does anybody talk about what it costs to shift people into the wagon and less people pulling it? That's a tremendous black hole, and they've created the black hole. They don't want to talk about it.
Well, here we go. I just pulled up the U.S. debt clock. We have $19.4 trillion of U.S. national debt and then another $102 trillion of unfunded liabilities. I mean, at some point in time, we have to have an honest conversation about what that means and how we're going to get out of that hole or start bringing it down.
And that'll inflate, what is it, $10 million by the end of the show, or is it what rate does it increase? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, yeah, one of my, and going back to this idea about the wagon, one of my favorite quotes, came from Franklin. And he said he had traveled the world and he'd watched how other countries had done this. And he said, one of the biggest concern is don't make poverty so comfortable nobody ever wants to leave. And, you see this war on poverty, and we all have a heart and we all want to do things, but you wonder at some point in time if we just keep feeding and fighting this war, if we're actually making it worse for many people and trapping them rather than actually helping them.
Now, this is one of the quotes you used in your speech last night. It's the only thing I heard. I'm kidding. I heard your whole speech. It was great. I pre-approved it. He inserted one line that I didn't know about, but it was a great speech. And everyone agreed with you, is that poverty is becoming comfortable. I did last week on another show that aired on the flagship station KFYO. We highlighted the Snapchat generation. I don't know if you caught that, but I included
what is Snapchat?
I'll tell you here in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, what is Snapchat? See, it's not us.
Yeah.
I have it, but I don't really know how to use it. I know that all the evidence evaporates in 30 seconds. It's like Mission Impossible Facebook, and I guess I
sure
don't know.
It does.
I'm sure someone we lost our young board op that could tell us all about it. The Snapchat generation, who is ages 18 to 26. First time and second time voters. This is actually an article we passed back and forth via text. It was Frank Lutz's poll he did back in March.
Oh, yes.
And then there was another article I paired with it, but this has been a growing problem. But when Frank Lutz polled these kids, and I'm going to throw bad statistics out. I'm just going to make them up, but I'm close. In this range, I think it was over 60%, somewhere around there, thought socialism and communism was a good idea. These are the ones that believe that poverty is comfortable. These are the ones that think that that path to government taking care of them. And this is our youth. These are the ones we're going to have to deal with for the next 30 to 40 years.
Well, it's a misunderstanding. More people have done better under capitalism than they ever have under socialism. Ask the people of Venezuela as they wait in lines for things. Ask the people of Russia.
Are we teaching that in school?
Well, it's not a, debatable subject. I mean, if you look back at history, more people have done better under a free market capitalism system than under socialism. It is just true. This is not a debatable subject. So why anybody wants to take us towards a place where people do less better, I don't understand. Now, it may feel good to hand out, money and to try to think you're doing good, but it doesn't solve long-term problems. And this is the fundamental problem with those who think and advocate for socialism. And much of what you hear, at the Democrat, well, heck, I mean, you almost had a socialist win the Democratic primary. That ought to tell you where their party is. But people are capitalists and believe in the free market not because of some sort of evil or greed. It's because when you look at it, you look at our country's history, more people have benefited. More people have been able to feed their family, provide a better life for their children, educate their children, and succeed because of being given those opportunities and having those freedoms. And we have to start continuing to talk about that message, that is what has helped get us to where we are. And while socialism may sound good, it has failed.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's take the break. When we come back, more with Representative Burrows right here on the Chad Hasty Show. Back on the Chad Hasty Show, visiting with State Representative Dustin Burrows. He's got so much on his mind, we're going to hold him over past the half hour. We may just go a whole hour. We may still be here at 1 o'clock, off the air, but talking into the mics. Got a question for him, 770-5790. Toll free, 1-800-687-0790. You can text your comments in too. Where were we? We were talking so much off air that we weren't going to say on air.
At the end of the day, we were talking DNC and the convention the Democrats put on. And what I found really revealing was the Secretary of State's comments the other day. I don't know if you caught any of those, where he comes out. This is John Kerry, representative of this liberal foreign policy that Hillary Clinton wants to continue. And he says something to the effect of, our air conditioners are as much of a threat to the loss of human life as ISIS. I mean, Steve, can you imagine somebody who has that irrational of a fear of air conditioners truly setting our foreign policy agenda that believes air conditioners are as much of a threat to the loss of human life as ISIS? I mean,
I missed that.
Wake
That's
up.
Ridiculous. Air conditioners in what way? The killer air conditioners?
Chlorofluorocarbons. I mean, it's climate change. It's this, it's perpetuating this idea out there that we should all be afraid of climate change more so or as much as ISIS.
That's the worst deflection from a true threat I've ever heard in my life. I missed that. I have not gotten to cover very much of the DNC stuff, just mainly because it's all blah and lies. And
Kerry may have said that while he was abroad, not actually at the DNC, but it's all been wrapped up into this week. And I think it's emblematic of what a lot of people at this convention, are talking about and think. That, I mean, their priority as far as keeping us, quote unquote, safe is to focus on, quote unquote, climate change rather than ISIS. And that's really a scary, bad foreign policy position to have.
Oh, it's terrible. Man, I'm really worried about the killer air conditioner in my home now. I wonder if that is that vehicle air conditioners too. Should we roll down our windows and drive real fast?
Well, interestingly, an aside here, talking about chlorofluorocarbons, last time they came out and did a ban on them or whatnot, do you know who the biggest sponsor of it was?
Probably. I was in the heat and air business at this time, and it was probably DuPont who released their brand new refrigerant that was the replacement for the evil R12 and R22.
Pharmaceutical lobby.
No, back up.
Yeah. Do you want to know why?
I want you to tie this together because
it's the truth. So they came out and said chlorofluorocarbons, we need to stop them, and they started giving all their money to candidates and whatnot. Well, they ended up doing a ban under Obama, and guess what happened overnight? Every inhaler for your steroid inhaler for asthma basically had chlorofluorocarbons in it. If you'll remember back in 2006, 2007, you're probably paying $40, $50 for a steroid inhaler. Then, whenever they redid this, they had to redesign the actual distribution system, which made a new round of patents, forced all the generics out, and the cost quadrupled overnight.
I wouldn't have put that together.
Yeah, there's a great article in Time Magazine called "The Cost of a Simple Breath," and it talks about how the fact that we are paying 10 times more than the rest of the world because of these types of things.
All right, we've got a caller. Let me get Dustin to slide some headphones on so he can hear him. You got audio there? Can you hear? Okay. Let's go out. Jay, you're on KFYO.
Good morning, guys. How are y'all doing?
Great.
Last year I retired and got bored and went back to school to advance my nursing degree, and I had to take both a world and American history class.
Okay, hold on, Jay. So, when did you first graduate? I mean, how old are you? That gives us an
I'm 50.
idea. You're 50. Okay, so when you first graduated in?
I graduated in '84, served in the military until 2000. While I was on active duty, got a degree in nursing, worked at Tech until 2015.
Okay, so now you've gone back to school.
And you were wondering why these Snapchat kids believe some of the things they believe. It's what they're being taught. I mean, I have an American history professor that is teaching that socialism and communism didn't fail because of being a corrupt system. It's because evil communism destroyed it. And that if we would have just given it the opportunity, it would have really worked.
Okay, back up for a second. Who's teaching this?
The professor I've got is...
Tell you what, Jay, you're going to have to, if you want to hold on over the break, sit tight. We can come right back to you. We've got to take a break here.
Okay.
John on line 2, just sit tight. He doesn't know he's on line 2, but I just told him sit tight, and we'll be right back after the break with more Chad Hasty Show. I'm Steve Evans in for Chad. Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans in for Chad today. Number to reach the show, 770-5790. 1-800-687-0790. We're going to go right back to the phones. We had to interrupt Jay. Jay, you're back on KFYO. We may need to just reboot that whole conversation. So you went to school. You're 50 years old. You went to school, military, and you've gone back to school. You still with us, Jay? Okay, there you are. You've gone back to school, and your observation was?
Well, I'm taking a history class this semester, and I'm going to really leave the professor's name out of it because I have to pass this class.
Yeah, don't fail because of us.
But he's much younger than I am. He's late 30s, early 40s, and he's teaching that if the United States had not forced the Soviet Union to spend so much money to defend itself against our aggressions, the Soviet Union would have succeeded and had thrived, and that the whole villain in that situation wasn't the Soviet Union, wasn't the corrupt communist system, it was us.
Is this a tech?
Yes.
This guy's an idiot.
Oh, I know he is, but this is what...
Come on, Jay, let us have his name.
I really need to pass this semester.
Yeah. Speak truth to power.
Go in and fight the man, Jay. Fail the class and protest.
Well, I do. He and I have some very lively discussions.
I bet.
In class. I'm even seeing some of this in my 17-year-old daughter's history classes in Lubbock Independent School District. They are teaching a revisionist history that socialism, communism would just really work if us evil capitalists would get out of the way.
Well, Jay, I mean, you're old enough and mature enough to be able to, understand that this, guy who's teaching is just full of it and it's propaganda. My question to you is, what about some of the younger students in the class? I mean, hopefully some of them had a good upbringing and recognize what this guy is teaching is just wrong. I mean, it's not even a debatable subject. He's just flat wrong.
But a lot of them don't. Either didn't care, or they never really learned, because they don't teach real history in high school anymore. These kids are coming in as a blank slate, and they're putting this garbage into them. That's the reason why so many of these kids think the way they do. They wasn't alive during the Soviet era. We were. We saw what actually transpired. These kids didn't. So they're only taking what they hear from school, and that's what they're building on.
That's what's building this Snapchat generation. Hey, Jay, thanks for your call.
Appreciate it, Jay.
And Jake, text me. Get on the text line. Give us the name. We'll say it didn't come from you. Just text him in. We'll make him famous and just fight him, protest, take the grade, and go on. You can take it up again in the fall.
Steve, right here in Lubbock, Texas. That's amazing.
It is. All right, let's go to John. You're on
Good
KFYO.
morning.
How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine, Steve. How about you, sir?
Pretty good.
Good. Say, I just wanted to say about climate change. You know, we don't blame that on Republicans or conservatives or anything else. Climate change has been taking place since the beginning of the planet. And a prime example of that is if you've ever been to the petrified forest in Arizona, you can see where that was a forest. And obviously, you know, lots of water and such. And it now is absolutely stone. Yeah, it's desert. And so that's a change. That didn't take place due to somebody's refrigerator or something like that. And so anyhow, that's just my thoughts on climate change. Yeah, God invented it, not the Republicans.
No. Thanks, John. You know, here's an interesting angle on it as well. If you think about the policy, and of course my job is always looking at policies, a lot of people say, okay, well let's do something about hydrocarbons in Texas, and we'll start using less hydrocarbons in some way in order to solve this made up issue. And, I always sit there and let's think through this for just a second. So let's say Texas uses less hydrocarbons and we're on a world market for hydrocarbons. We all accept that, right?
Right.
What does that do to the price of hydrocarbons in China?
It's going to drive them down, make them cheaper?
Yes.
But you would think the demand would change, would affect that as well.
Well, if there's less demand because Texas uses less, obviously that means it's going to drive prices down. That's economics 101.
Sure.
So if prices go down, does that not mean China's going to consume more hydrocarbons, right?
No,
True.
They're going to export more.
Well,
they're going to
no,
sell them cheaper to us.
Well, no, but they're going to consume more. I mean, that's the point. If you have if you have a built-up demand over in the third world developing countries and you drive down the prices because of Texas's lack of consumption, that means they're going to consume more.
You would think so, but I am of the belief, Dustin, that China doesn't consume anything they produce. They ship it all here, and they use very little of what we produce.
Well, I think that, but at the end of the day, let's say I'm right. They consume more. They consume more and actually produce more greenhouse gases per gallon than we do in Texas. So essentially, by actually consuming less hydrocarbons in Texas, we've actually put more greenhouse gases in the air because China's consuming more. So essentially, if you really think about this from an economic standpoint, we need to use all the hydrocarbons we can in Texas so that China can't use any of them.
Yeah, that's a great argument, and that is more dangerous to us than ISIS. But
all right,
let's go ahead and take a break. We had a little technical difficulty. We got it going now. Let's go ahead and take the break. When we come back, a little bit more with Dustin Burrows right here on the Chad Hasty Show. Dustin Burrows in studio today. We're visiting about everything under the sun. Dustin, you gave a great speech last night. It had some great bullet points. It was, if you still have that, there were some great things that were said, but it was a positive message. We're thinking in the party structure, the party insiders and our group, we're thinking unity and moving forward. And I think we need to stop focusing on the negative. We need to start focus on the positive things in our party and the negative things in the Democrat Party that we're combating. And that's what's important, not attacking our own and from within.
That's what I tried to say last night is that, I had a lot of friends in the room, a lot of people that I'm personal acquaintances with, but, I've been involved in Republican politics for a long time. Filled a lot of offices and walked blocks for a lot of candidates. I liked them personally, but, I've been a Republican mostly because of the principles. And I went through and just reiterated what some of the core principles are. That, we believe we get our rights from God, not from government. That government's first duty is to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That we can't make all men equal, but we should strive to treat them equally. Just some of the basic tenets of who we are. And that hopefully we can unify in agreement on those. And then also we hopefully can unify in the fact that Hillary Clinton dislikes and despises everything that we stand for. And she will appoint people to that Supreme Court that will try to undermine every basic principle that we're fighting for. And hopefully we can find unity in those two messages.
I hope so. Do you think that first, I have two questions. Let me ask you this one first. Has there ever been, in your history of local county politics, has there ever been that one candidate that moved you so much that you wanted to go out and work your very last minute fighting for, or has it always just been mediocre candidates that you could just live with?
Look, there's been candidates who I have been excited for, and there's candidates I have endorsed and I have believed in, not just because they're good human beings, but because I believed in that they were right. They understood conservatism. They understood that conservative principles were the kindest and the best policy for the most people, that they deep down understood that government can't fix all of the problems, that there's a knee-jerk reaction today that anytime there's anybody who's got an ill, that some policy will solve it, and some people that I've supported basically understand that government can't solve our problems.
Right. So what I'm leading you to is if you don't have that candidate that's just the greatest candidate in the world, there's not in every candidate. There's just not. There's not someone that every single person in the party, and let's not take every single person from every spectrum. Let's just take our party. There's not, and I've never seen one. If there is, correct me. But I've never seen a candidate that is all encompassing and can address 100% of the issues that everybody has. If they are, they're a liar. They just can't be.
You can't be all things to all people.
And the problem I see right now is we are all individually focusing on the negative. We're focusing on the things that we don't like about Trump. We're focusing on the things that we don't like about Cruz. And part of it is because we're better informed than we used to be. We've got more instantaneous media. I've got two phones sitting in front of me throwing news at me live. I have it all day, every day. I need to disconnect and turn it off. But when you have that constant information around you, it starts to create problems and tear people apart. And we're focusing on the negative rather than focusing our attention on who we're actually fighting against.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can lose a battle and win the war. And right now we've got a situation where we've got, a Democrat contender who wants to appoint justices in the vein of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sotomayor, and she may get 3, 4, different picks if she's the nominee. And if you're a constitutionalist, like I know I am, and I believe you are, Steve, that is a very dangerous thing. We are very close. We're within a generation of losing a constitutional republic. There is still some basis where the Constitution is respected, and this court right now is doing everything it can, the liberal wing of it, to undermine it and give that Constitution no meaning. And if you cram that court full of justices who don't have any understanding or belief that the Constitution's duty is to limit government and not empower those in power, we're going to lose that Constitution.
I might differ with you. I don't think we're a generation away. I think we're one more bad presidency away. We're seeing as many as 5 appointments that could happen. We've got 3 justices over the age of 70 that could retire. I mean, let's think of a world where we let Hillary Rodham Clinton appoint 5 justices. And the thing that'll make you lose sleep at night is she could appoint Barack Obama as a justice, and I'm sure a deal could be made to get him confirmed. That would be terrible. But look, this is what we're talking about. I mean, this is so simple, but this is the core of the problem, and this is really what is important now. And this is why it's important to unify the party and get behind the candidate, because this is the thing that can set the tone and the stage for the next 30 to 40 years.
So I agree with you on that. And I'll also agree with you when Cruz gave his speech and he talked about the freedoms that are important to America. I went off and said, yes, 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 yes. I'm so happy you're saying that. And if he stands up for those in Washington when he runs for re-election for senator, I'll stand with him, because the things he put in his speech, whether you like him not or personally, what he said in his speech are important things. So I can be for beating Hillary Clinton and for Cruz getting reelected to the Senate because of what he espoused. And I can hold those two things at the same time.
I can too. To be honest with you, I don't even understand why the Senate seat is even an issue. Why are we even talking about it? It has nothing to do with the presidential election, in my opinion. It's just, it's self-serving. And I didn't go down this path to beat up the nominee. That's who I'm behind, and I'm going to support him. And I think we're focusing on our internal problems too much. But you said one thing earlier, visiting with Dustin Burrows on KFYO. You said one thing earlier about the battle versus the war. There are those that think that the war was last week, that was the war. And that is not. We're so far from the war.
Look,
that was the battle.
There's this, last night, again, we were unified on principles. I truly believe that. When I looked around the room last night and I talked to Republicans and I go down the list, we may not agree in the order in which, things are, but if we said, let's make a top 10 list of why we're Republicans, there's agreement with a lot of different people in a lot of different camps. And the order may change in what's number 1 and what's number 10, but it's there. And we just, we look at what Hillary Clinton stands for, what she represents, and it is against every one of those 10 things that we believe in.
Absolutely. And
period. The end. She is.
That's what we should be focusing on. Let's go ahead and take a last break of the hour, and we'll come back with just a few more minutes with Dustin Burrows. I'm Steve Evans, in for Chad on News Talk 790 KFYO. Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Just a few minutes left in this segment. Thanks for coming on, Representative Burrows. Anything you got coming up for the next session? Things you're looking at? The message you're pushing?
Look, I've got a bunch of bills being drafted right now. We're going to hopefully start rolling them out come October. A lot of them are going to be based on free markets with healthcare, pharmaceuticals, agriculture. There's going to be a lot of things that I look forward to coming back on and visiting with everybody about. If you don't already like my Facebook page, please go to it, like it, so we can keep you updated. It's Burrows 4 TX. That's the same as my website, same as my Twitter handle. I try to stay active on it and try to stay engaged and let people know what I'm thinking about the issues of the day and also some of the agenda that I have for next session.
What's your premier piece of legislation you're pushing? I mean, what's your favorite? What are you really looking for? We've got just a minute or so here.
Yeah, so real quickly, if you look at the cost of health care overall, it is about to the point it's going to collapse. We got word the other day we're going to be down to a single health care insurance company in Texas. They want to raise their premium 60%. So the Democrats are all saying, look, we need to take it over and administer it. I think that's a horrible idea. We don't need to let government ration this. So we've got to come up with a conservative solution that uses market economics to start bending the cost curve back to something that's affordable for most people. I've got some great ideas. I'm very excited about them. I think they're ideas that will work, which will free up money in our state budget for roads, for education, for other things, and it'll free up money in people's pocketbooks so they can save for retirement, so they can actually spend money on housing, they can spend money on other things. But we've got to tackle this issue. I know it's complicated. I know a lot of people don't want to touch it because it is so complicated, but we've got to get into it, and we can dig into the weeds when we have more time about how my plan actually works, because I'm not scared of the details, because I know this is good policy.
Sure. We are excited that you're on our side. You're there in the State House fighting for us. Any final thoughts? We just got a few seconds here.
Yeah, no, at the end of the day, I think I'm like most people. I worry about, the future. I worry about the future for the children, and I think good conservative fundamental policy is the solution. I'm going to continue to advocate for it.
All right. Thanks for coming on. It's always great to visit with you.